So there's been a lot of talk recently, both positive and negative, regarding the state of the One Punch Man manga. Obviously, it's drawn beautifully. Murata does an amazing job in every single chapter and fight scene. But story-wise, is it good right now? Does it make sense, or is it all just too much? Let's talk about it. So a friend and I recently did a reread of pretty much the last 61 Punch Man chapters of the Monster Association arc, and we both kind of came to the same conclusion at the same moment that okay, maybe this is too much. And that was when Sage Centipede arrives, essentially just so Metal Bat has a reason to be in this arc and also gets a cool little team-up moment with Garou, who seems like a hero in this moment. The entire sequence, in my opinion at least, felt like a fan fiction brought to life by Murata himself, and I'm not necessarily complaining because Metal Bat is my favorite character and I love seeing his banter with Garou and them interacting. But I have to admit that the whole sequence does feel out of place tonally and kind of just like, okay, it was shoved in there, so Metal Bat has this moment because he's here in this arc because we decided he's here in this arc, and I don't think it's necessarily there to serve the story outside of seeing the more human side of Garou, but we already kind of knew about that, so I don't even know if that's really adding anything. Thinking about it a little more, I do think that Garou's relationship with Metal Bat here kind of does serve his character a bit because we see that he has a respect for Metal Bat because he sees him as an actual true hero who's there to help people, unlike people like Flashy Flash who just care about their ego more so. But I do think it could have been done in a way that doesn't feel as shoehorned in, like having another centipede just arrive out of nowhere. It just feels kind of lazy, and again, I don't want to trash on it too much because it's really cool, but story-wise, I don't think it was necessarily carried out super well. Regarding Garou's characterization, I do feel that it's a bit redundant because we see the same story beats kind of repeated over and over again. Like, okay, yeah, he wants to be a monster, thinks he's a monster, but he's actually very human and is also saving people. It makes for an interesting character, but when they keep beating you over the head with it, and then it kind of just amounts to, okay, now God seems to be taking over Garou or influencing him, it just is kind of boring and lazy because it's like, okay, we need a reason for Garou to be this evil because he's not actually this evil. This same sort of thing is kind of happening in the My Hero Academia manga right now, where Shigaraki is being controlled somewhat or entirely. It's kind of confusing by All For One. I don't like these cop-outs of these outside forces taking over and controlling these antagonist bodies and wills because it just feels lazy, and I'd rather the actual antagonists kind of have their moment to be the antagonist and not there be an outside force controlling their action. I'll probably do a completely separate video on the whole Shigaraki All For One situation, but I just wanted to draw the comparison for this discussion on the characterization of Garou. I actually haven't worked on the video in a few days, so this next part is a few days after that last part, and within that time a new chapter came out, so I'm going to be mentioning that. And if you are still watching, please like, comment, subscribe. It helps out a lot and gives me the motivation to continue, but let's get into it. So regarding God's influence on Garou, I don't actually dislike it too much, as it kind of makes sense as Garou just slaps his hand away, but because of that he does get some of the power and somewhat becomes a vessel to which he ends up killing a bunch of people on Earth, including Tario, the little kid that he likes. And then in the new chapter he's very regretful of this and ends up teaching Saitama how to rewind time, kind of. I don't know how I feel about the time travel, and now Saitama and Garou kind of forgetting everything that happened and this ominous future, in quotations I'll call it. I really like how the realization of what he did to Tario with his actions broke him free of God's control, or rather influence I should say. I'm just realizing that I kind of completely skipped over a major thing that happened, which was Saitama and Garou's battle in one of the moons of Jupiter or Saturn, I believe, and that was really fucking awesome. I love the scaling of it all, how we see Saitama growing exponentially in comparison to Garou, who may have been catching up at a point, but it shows Saitama's rate of growth is just insanely far ahead of his and anyone else's. Another big thing I almost overlooked was the fact that Blast made multiple appearances in this arc. We saw him fight, we saw glimpses of his powers, and he's essentially relegated to balancing the cosmos and space-time continuum as Garou and Saitama fight. He's also the one that kind of teleports them over to those moons so they wouldn't completely destroy the Earth with their fight. But yeah, he feels kind of inconsequential in a sense, although he does play an important role. It's kind of a weird feeling I have towards his character overall. He sort of feels like a plot convenience, but I also don't want to be too harsh, as I did like his depiction as a character. It feels extremely weird to say, but it looks like we're finally coming to the end of the Monster Association arc, an arc that's been going on since I think I was in 8th grade. I am now going into my 2nd year of college, so it's been a long time, and So many fights, so many chapters, so many long waits between chapters. And overall, I mean, it is really good. It's beautifully drawn, written pretty well most of the time. Pacing wise, I think it took a little too long in my opinion, but overall, it is a very enjoyable arc. I was a bit worried that they were going to downplay Saitama's power in some way and make Garo an actual threat, but I'm glad that didn't happen. And honestly, we got out of it pretty scot clean, if that's the word. So yeah, I'm happy about that, and that's about all I have to say regarding the state of the OPM manga. That's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. It helps out a lot, and I will see you in the next one.